Hey, what's up, everybody? Really great conversation I just had with Tim Herzog. He is the godfather of craft beer here in Buffalo. You ever meet somebody where like you sit down and they just start talking and you're like, man, I could listen to this guy talk forever. He's just such an amazing storyteller. Well, that's Tim. I mean, we talked about everything about his early years getting involved with craft brewing in his house to starting Flying Bison, everything about running a business built on passion and kind of hard work and sweat and kind of all the things he learned along the way. Super interesting. I mean, again, it's the type of guy you can just listen to forever. I think you're really going to enjoy it. So check it out. As always, this episode is brought to my firm, Richmond Vona Personal Injury Attorneys. Hope you never need us, but if you do, we got your back. Enjoy. You sure? You want to? On your mark. Go. Should we talk? We should talk. We should start conversing now.
We should speak and sign just to piss him off.
Let's do it. Yeah. Well, we can't do any of this without him, so I have to be nice to him. Thanks for being here, Tim. I'm excited.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
What's going on? I heard your voicemail says Retired Guy Incorporated.
Yes. I even after having been retired for some time, I was still getting calls from salespeople and people wanting me to come to bring beer to community events and help support their fundraisers. And I mean, my retirement was in the newspaper. The TV stations came down and it was pretty embarrassing about how all that went. My idea of retiring was I would walk out the front door and hand my key to the taproom manager, Vinny, and that would be it. And no, it didn't go that way.
Yeah, that's actually something I want to talk to you about. And in preparation, I was thinking, wow, this is going to apply, I think, to a lot of business owners and a lot of people.
Sure.
It's going to resonate with a lot of people. I was just literally talking to some guys. I'm in a group. I was talking to some guys yesterday, and one of the gentlemen is, struggling with this concept of whether he sells and remains on under somebody else. It's a business he built up. So I definitely want to get into that. I think you'll have a very unique perspective. But I wanted to start off and go back a little bit because when we sit around and we brainstorm, who's someone who'd be really interesting and fun to bring on, your name popped up a couple of times and you were described to me as the godfather of beer.
I was given that nickname, yes.
It wasn't self-anointed?
No. Tom from over at Kegworks gave me that nickname, and whenever he wanted to go out for a beer with me, he would tell his wife, I'm going to stop for a pint with the Godfather. And
That's
so
awesome.
it was kind of a code word, I'll be safe, I'll be home early, I'll be, all that sort of stuff. And it caught. And so I became the Godfather of beer in Buffalo.
It's awesome. I feel like, there's still, I think a lot of people out there where their relationship with beer or whatever their beverage of choice is just like, yeah, I drink this thing to loosen up and have fun. But obviously you have a much deeper relationship that it sounds like goes back to the 70s. And we're both from Rochester, by the way. So yeah, but take me back. How did, I think I've heard the story, but I'd love to hear it from you. How did this relationship begin and how did it start to evolve?
So when, by the time I got to high school, we lived out in Chilai.
Yeah.
So I grew up most of my grammar school years in the city by St. Mary's Hospital, Bull's Head.
I'm from Greece on the west side.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, I went to Cardinal Mooney High School.
There you go. Okay.
So we're practically twins.
I went to Athena.
So did my cousins. But they are well older than you.
Yeah.
So they're a few years older than me. So we were living out in the town of Chilai, and at that time it was a second ring suburb, and there was a fair amount of rural component to it. If I walked out my front door and walked the equivalent of a mile and a quarter, I was standing looking at Mr. Zuber's cows. And if I went a mile up the other way, there was this big open kind of swampy field that became a shopping plaza. And there was a Star supermarket.
Okay.
Were they still around?
No, I grew up a Wegmans kid.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, they went at some point in time, but one of my part-time jobs between senior year in high school and freshman year in college, I was coming to Buffalo. That's how I wound up here. I was working at Star Supermarket. They had just opened a brand new store, and I was working there. I was also working at the Strong Estate, which became the Strong Museum. Mm-hmm. So they didn't have the museum yet. So I was a groundskeeper there during the day, and then nights and weekends I bagged groceries at Star Supermarket. And one Saturday afternoon, I was walking out the door, and I walked by the beer aisle. Now, when I lived in Chilai, there was one bar in a town that's about the size of Amherst.
Okay.
It's a really big town. So there's one bar.
Oh, man.
And now, 50 years later, there are 2 bars in all of Chilai.
Wow.
So it's not what you'd call a drinking town. My family were not beer people. It was not, it's just my friends. Hey, let's get together and, we'll go out to Art's cousin's barn. We can have a campfire and hang out and, everybody catch up before we go away to college. And they'd show up with their 12-pack of ice cold whatever. A lot of Jenny.
Yeah.
Lots of, and I didn't care for it. I didn't like it. I didn't get it. So I was walking out Star Supermarket one day and I saw this 4-pack of beer from Ireland, and it was Guinness foreign export stout. And I had no idea about any of this back then. There was just no information on it available. So I picked it up because I was 18 years old. I could buy beer and drink beer, and I brought it home. And my mom is the Irish side. She's little Annie Grace. And so I opened one of the beers and poured it, and it was the polar opposite of what my friends were drinking. Pitch black with a dense brown head on it, had a big, rich nose, and I thought it was absolutely delicious, and I still do. It's still
I love Guinness. It's my favorite.
Yeah. And the foreign export stout's the 8% version.
Okay, I gotta make sure I get that.
Yeah. It's a nice goblet beer. It's you don't want to drink it cold. Just a light chill on it. Pretend it's Bordeaux wine.
Okay,
and you'll be good.
All right, fair enough.
So I just loved it, and from that point on, it was just slippery slope downhill. That anytime I would go out on a date with some young woman, especially the woman that I married, it would be, how come this bar doesn't have any beer with any flavor to it? How come this store doesn't have any beer? I became this nagging professional beer complainer. When I came to Buffalo, the advantage was Buff State had a pub in the student union, and they at least had 1 or 2 Canadian beers. You could get Molson Canadian Ale, or once in a while, Labatt's Velvet Cream Porter.
Okay.
No Names had Beck's Dark, so you could go down there and have a Beck's Dark and play backgammon. They had a board, and that's what Betsy and I would do on rainy Sunday afternoons sometimes. And so it just was, I started this love affair with beer and became a professional beer complainer. So when Betsy and I got married, she gave me a homebrew startup kit as a gag gift. Haha, you think you can do better, and made the batch of beer that was in the kit, and it wasn't the best beer around, but I loved the process. I still do, 45 years later. I love the smell of the grain. I love the time it takes to make it. And then the best part of it all is when you're done and you pour a glass for somebody and give it to them and they like it. I don't know. That's the best paycheck I've ever gotten.
And you made it. That's amazing. It's funny because now, let me ask you this: when you're talking about when you first got that home brew kit, like roughly what year was that?
1981.
I mean, because now in this day and age, right? I mean,
I can get anything I want.
You can't, and you can't. I mean, you go into these stores and it's almost like hard to make a decision if you don't know what you're doing, because with all like the marketing and all the cans look amazing and like all the packaging is really cool. But going back to like 1981, I mean, this was not really a thing, right? Like you probably didn't know a lot of people like with home brew kits, right?
Nobody.
Yeah, so that was totally foreign. So you start doing this at home. And it sounds like, obviously, like you said, it's slippery slope.
Yeah.
And you start building on that.
Yeah.
Talk about kind of what led to you like finally getting to the point where you're like, you know what, I could actually do this on a larger scale, or I could start a business. Did you make that decision, or was it like just kind of like you ended up doing it? Just kind of led you into it.
Well, there's a couple of things. One was I was doing a lot of homebrewing, and if the government's listening, I may have exceeded the amount, 100 gallons per year per adult in the household. I may have exceeded 200 gallons, but the statute of limitations is up on that.
It sure is.
So you don't have to come looking for me. But I had gotten to the point where I had a 1-barrel system, gas-fired kettle and mash tun. So that was 31 U.S. gallons per batch. And I was brewing at least once, probably twice, maybe a little more, a month. And it was not uncommon for Betsy and I to be out of draft beer at our house. So there was our kids in the neighborhood, my kids and my neighbor's kids, and we still live there, and we're still friends with all these people, and all the kids are still friends with each other. Because I was working all the time, so Sunday afternoon was my time to cut the grass and work in the gardens, and I like doing that too. And I'd be done, and the kids from down the street would come. Hey, my dad's almost done. He was thinking about having a beer after work. And I go, well, I got some brown ale on tap or some Kolsch on tap or whatever it was. And, yeah, that sounds like that'd be a good idea. So they would scheme, and they would go down to his house, and hey, my sons would go, hey, my dad's just about done with the lawn, and he was going to have a Kolsch and sit on the porch, and they go across the street to their house, and so pretty soon, Betsy and I'd be sitting on the front porch, and at that time it was just a concrete stoop. We've built a bigger front porch for obvious reasons. And here comes all these people with their lawn chairs walking down the street. It looks like Night of the Living Dead, because they're all exhausted from working in the yard. And yeah, cold beer sounds like a great idea. And Betsy goes, oh, God, I hope you got enough draft. So one year we're working on our taxes, getting all the paperwork out. And she says, we got to do something about this because we can't afford for you to keep doing this as an amateur. Excuse me.
No, you're fine.
And I had, so this is many years later. This is into the 90s. I'd met a friend here, and he was also a home brewer, and he started a small homebrew supply shop in his basement. And craft brewing was starting to really kick up on the West Coast, Sierra Nevada, Anchor, Deschutes, all those folks. We'd heard of them, but you couldn't get their beer here.
Right.
Did a little traveling, had the beer, liked the beer. It was just really cool to see what was going on. There were craft beer bars coming up. The Tornado chain, excuse me, from they're like from San Diego to San Francisco.
Okay.
They had 4 or 5 places.
Yeah.
So having experienced that a little bit and, seeing what was coming down the road and not being able to afford to stay amateur anymore. And, Red and I took a trip to England to research cask ales. Research with the finger quotes.
That's right. Well, you have to taste them, right?
Right. Well,
a lot of them.
To learn about it. I've heard about it. Yeah. It sounded like a cool thing. The British pub is something that we just don't have in this country, and it's a life changer. When you go there, it's like people who go to Paris and sit outside a cafe and have a glass of wine from a local, regional winery. You sit there and you go, why don't we do this? We don't do this here. Everybody sits in their own house with their own TV and their, you don't get out and go to the neighborhood place. We used to have the corner bar,
right?
But those are almost extinct now.
Yeah.
And that was as close as it got. But the British pub, they have inside spaces, outside spaces. They take these little tiny buildings and turn them into a place where you want to bring your friends and you want to go there and have that delicious beer and that just very relaxed, chill atmosphere. And so once I had experienced that, that was it for me. I was going to do it. And in '86, I started working at the Buffalo Brew Pub. I had done some bartending before, and I had made a lot of home brew by that point. And so they opened at the corner of Main and Transit. They're still there all these years later, so they're doing something right. So I got a job there, tending bar, and then it's doing some brewing. And in a brew pub, you wear a lot of hats. You sweep floors, you clean the brewery, you tend bar, you do it all. So that was great. It was a great experience. And then I got to a point working there that I'm really going to do this. I'm going to do a brewery, but I want to do a production brewery, not a pub, because there were 1,700 licenses in Erie and Niagara County at that time. And I thought, if you open a brew pub, you're competing with 1,700 other places. Mm-hmm. If you open a production brewery, you have a chance to service 1,700 places. So I just thought the odds were in my favor.
Smart. And that's obviously what led to Flying Bison.
Yep.
Going back for a second. So prior to going to Buffalo Brew Pub, which, yeah, it is still there, and it's a peanuts on the floor place. Like, I love it. Love it.
I was just there last week.
Yeah, I love it. Do you, were you working, we'll just say like in, I don't want to, I'm like the bar industry, the restaurant industry, like, were you doing something different? And then you're like, hey, let me just go work here and start taking steps closer towards opening my own thing?
No, I had started bartending because my degrees were in graphic design and art education. And in 1980, there were 5 good-sized ad agencies in Buffalo that collapsed into 3.
Okay.
And put a lot of designers and writers and copy people out on the street. Mm-hmm. The PC was coming into production that everybody had one. So typesetting jobs and page layout jobs and all that sort of stuff, anybody can do it.
Yeah.
You didn't need a skilled person to measure type and
yeah.
copy fit and all that sort of stuff. You just type it in the computer and it resets everything for you. So there's a bunch of jobs out the window. And then as far as teaching, nobody was hiring art teachers. Mm-hmm. They were getting rid of art and music wholesale. And so it was a bad time to be either one of those, much less both of those. So I went to bartender school. I got to get a job. I had painted houses while I was in school. That's just a really dangerous job.
Yeah, it is.
Around here, 3- and 4-story Victorians.
Yeah, oh yeah.
When I think about the things I used to do at that job, it makes my palms sweat. So I thought bartending would be a good job, and it turned out to be a really great job because when kids came along, Betsy is an engineer, and so she had the 9-to-5 day job. I could work nights, weekends. I could work around her, mm-hmm. and it was all sort of part-time work, but I was 30 hours or more.
Sure.
So it was that. And then once I started planning the brewery and laying that out, that was one job. Taking care of the kids was another job. Working at the Buffalo Brew Pub, and then I left the brew pub in '93 to work at just a bar in the neighborhood because I didn't think it was right to work at another brewery while I was planning my own brewery. We wound up being great friends over time anyway, so they carried our beer, and it was a great relationship.
So leading up to starting Flying Bison, I think I read someplace that there hadn't been a new brewery built in Buffalo in a very, very, very long time.
Right.
Am I correct that like the last one to be built was Iroquois? Is that right?
Well, when Simon changed its name to the William Simon Brewery,
yeah.
It was a German family that Bill Simon had married into.
Okay.
And when he changed the license over to his name in 1900, that was the last new brewer license in the city of Buffalo.
Wow. So it was 100
years.
When you went to go get your brewer license, were people looking at you like, how the hell do we do this? Like pulling open cabinets, is like bats flying out of it. Like, how did that work?
Yeah, you've got it. You've got the right image. When I went to City Hall and we were looking at this building, they were looking to see what the zoning was, because breweries are zone 2, which mm-hmm. is oil refineries are also zoning 2.
Okay.
Because 100 years before, they were very dangerous places to work.
Yeah.
They used compressed ammonia as a refrigerant, and that's very dangerous to work with. The technology of the day was wooden vessels with fire under them to heat them. Yeah. What could go wrong there?
Use your imagination.
Right. So there are lots of dangerous things in the brewery. They're incredibly safe now, and I don't know what's happened over the last few years, if that ever changed. But when I went to City Hall, they're opening this big giant Rolodex machine that they had, and the ink on the wasn't even blue anymore.
Wow.
It was brown. It was fading. So that's how long it had been. And when I started talking with people at the state and I started talking with people at the feds, everything had to be sent certified mail. So it was days and weeks to get anything done. Now you can file everything on computer.
Yeah. When you were starting that process, I'm curious because you never owned a business before, right? This
Correct.
is going to be your first real, legitimate,
Correct.
quote unquote, business venture.
Yep.
Especially knowing that you're doing something that people haven't done literally in almost 100 years or whatever, close to it, right? Mm-hmm. Did at any point did you like think twice about it? Were you getting nervous about it? Like, did you have people? Because I think sometimes, outside people will be like, are you sure you want to do this? Like, nobody does it for a reason, like that kind of thing. Like, what was going on at that time?
Only 99.7 people ask me those questions.
I'm sure.
Are you nuts? What are you thinking of? And to a certain degree, they were right. The day that we opened and delivered first beer, we had 7 accounts and under $500 in the checking account. Mm-hmm. So not exactly a well-funded startup.
Yeah.
But that's what it took. We were underway. I had a partner. His name was Red, and he was killed in a motorcycle accident.
Oh, wow.
When we were pretty far into the process.
Jeez.
And so now we had to take everything apart. We had even gotten approval from the bank for financing. Oh. So we had to take that all apart and go back and start all over again. We had to refile corporate papers. We had to refile the licensing. We had to so I started Flying Bison twice.
Oh, wow.
Once before he passed and once after.
Yeah, it's not that sad. So we're in the early 90s right now, right? Early to mid?
No, we're late 90s.
Late 90s, okay.
So he died in 97.
Okay. How did you come up with the name Flying Bison?
Well, back then, I don't think this is true anymore, but back then, if there was a business, so Buffalo Brewing Company. Mm-hmm. There had been a Buffalo Brewing Company before. There was a slight change on it. But when Kevin Townsell applied for that, he was out in Lackawanna. And he was there from 88 to 93, I think. But it was Buffalo Brewing Corporation in the 1800s, but that was in San Francisco. Mm-hmm. So when he applied, he could say Buffalo Brewing Company and get through. So once you filed the name, unless you went and unfiled that name with the government, it stands.
Yeah.
So we had all these Iroquois, Erie County, dozens and dozens of breweries had been here. Most of them were the last name of the owner of the brewery. Mm-hmm. So the Lang Brewery, the Simon Brewery, and that Herzog Brewery might be a little too German these days. So we had talked about it, but I had friends who were small investors. I had a partner. So I didn't think that would be a good idea. So we were trying to find names. And there were 2 things that Buffalo really did a lot of over history is breweries and build airplanes.
Yep.
So that's where Flying Bison got the name.
That's cool. So, you have the tragedy, and you have to kind of go back to the drawing board and get this thing going. And it sounds like, you're running on like a lot of entrepreneurs, right? You're running on passion and you're like, I'm not going to let this thing fail. Yeah. I think, a lot of people, they start just like that, not a lot of money in the account, but I'm going to get this thing done, however it has to happen. Talk to me about when you actually do launch it. Where were you? What did it look like? What were kind of your struggles and even your successes early on? Where was your headspace then?
So struggles were, yes.
Yeah. How much time do you have? Yeah.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
How many days?
Yeah.
So there were a lot, but there was an article written about us early on. There was a beer newspaper called the Great Lakes Brewing News at the time, and a gentleman named Paul Deister, who became the mayor of Niagara Falls.
Yep.
And his wife and son own a homebrew supply shop, which I almost single-handedly supported for a while. But great folks, wonderful people. Paul wrote an article about us, and he said, for all the struggles that you've heard about, that they're fairly public. For all the struggles that Flying Bison has had, they've got even more friends. And that was true then. It's true now. Business has morphed and changed and lots of that. But we always had friends. We had people, we had interns that wanted to come and learn about it and help. And about 2/3 of those interns are still in the brewing industry. Mm-hmm. Some of them said, no, this is too much work.
Yeah.
And you guys must be nuts. But we had friends that helped. So the struggles, financial, obviously, I didn't get a salary for 6 years.
Yeah.
My wife was incredibly patient. How she didn't smother me with my pillow at some point is just, well, because I wasn't home sleeping. So we had after 6 months, a year, she said, look, we got to make a change here. So after you've logged 100 hours in your work week, you just have to come home.
Yeah.
I don't care when it is. You just have to come home. So it wasn't all the time, but there were times, go to work Monday morning, come home Thursday night, Friday morning, get a couple hours sleep, and go back, make sure you're open for retail or deliveries on Friday, and work Saturday, and then come home and cut the lawn on Sunday.
Yeah. That's a tale of like most like startup entrepreneurs, and it you know, there's a saying that overnight success takes a hell of a long time, and most people in the public don't see those early years. It's incredibly difficult. When you were early on, you know, you're just going, right? You have to be told to stop working. It's kind of a two-part question. One, did you learn something about yourself that maybe you didn't like maybe you didn't know, like, oh wow, I didn't realize I had this type of engine? Or was it just like, I didn't think about it, I just kept going? And then the second part is, at any point in time in that, did your passion for actual brewing and the actual like the beer itself ever wane because of how much work you're putting in?
No.
Okay, that's great.
Still there.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So
that means you really care.
I homebrewed 3 weeks ago.
No kidding. Brett, do you have beer next to you?
I've been drinking the whole show.
I have 3 5-gallon batches.
That's awesome.
Working at home. So
You just love
I still love it. And if a doctor told me you can't drink anymore, first of all, I'd argue with him. But I still make it for the neighbors and, you know, friends who come over. I have a small room at my house that's a pub. 7-foot long bar, 3 taps, you know.
It's awesome.
So yeah, that's still there. Learning about your engine, yeah, for sure. Because what I had done before that was collegiate and creative oriented, drawings, paintings, you know, reading, getting myself through college. Mm-hmm. And it was more pensive activities. Now, I also was a soccer player, a runner, and a rugby player. Yeah. So I did have some physical outlets. Mm-hmm. But the work thing, once the brewery got under my skin, it was there.
Well, and it sounds like, you know, I hear this all the time from people. Excuse me. It doesn't matter what industry they're in. When you take the chance on yourself, obviously you're taking a risk, right? A huge risk. And you look at that bank account and you say, hey, the only person that's going to make this thing go is me. Yeah. You learn a lot about yourself. And I think for most people, you learn just what you're actually capable of. Right. Which is pretty cool.
Yeah. 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 It's when I look back on it, I'm trying to decide if I was insane.
I think you have to be a little bit. But that's okay.
I think you're right. I think that was a lot of it. But it's interesting that my older son is in the brewing industry. And that's his story to tell. And my younger son went in a very different direction, but he's successful at what he does. He's kind of a workaholic. You know, the older son he knows that you got to put the brakes on once in a while, but he works a lot too. So I think that was interesting to see how it affected them. Yeah. They never held it against me if I missed a hockey game. I didn't miss many. But if I had to miss a hockey game or, you know, got into practice a few minutes late, no grief from them ever. They were really incredibly understanding.
That's awesome. You can't be a successful entrepreneur without a really supportive family. Yeah, like it's the spouses, the kids, you know, even like close friends play a huge role, I think, in the success. Like being there for you, being an outlet, or even just being there on the side and like not asking you about work and just being friends or family. It's important.
Yeah, well, it was a little bit the opposite with me. My neighbors still ask me about about the brewing industry and about the brewery and with some of the changes that have happened over time. Well, what is this and how does this really work and what does it mean and how can I get the brand that I liked and you know.
Seems like you don't mind having those discussions though.
I don't. It's there's times where if I'm in a group of, you know, a large group of people and you're saying the same thing 30 times, 40 times, 50 times over in the space of a half an hour. Yeah. It starts to feel a little tedious, but then take a sip, take a minute, and realize that they're asking because they care.
Yep, they're interested.
If they didn't care, they'd be home watching TV.
Exactly.
So that is a lot of drive.
That's awesome.
That gets you through a lot.
So, you start Flying Bison, and obviously, you've been homebrewing, but your background really was in art and education. That's where you thought you were going to go. And then it's cool too. Again, another common story is like something happens, I can't get a job or whatever it is, and I end up actually doing something that I love doing. So you have obviously, like a lot of entrepreneurs, including me, like no business degree, no training running a business. How did you learn?
Fortunately, I had friends who had some pretty serious business acumen.
Okay.
Two in particular. One was a electrical engineer, and he's not from here. He went from Cleveland through university to South Carolina, and then got hired by a company up here. And he was always just full of, how can I help you? What can I, let me explain this to you. And then there was another guy, his family owned a business here, and we actually wound up working with them. They were a temp agency. So when we were able to start bringing people on and start paying people other than me, it was through this temp agency, and he was helping with kind of shuffling finances, and it's not the robber baron type of shuffling finances.
Yeah.
It's, well, I can't pay for malt this week. I'll pay for it next week so I can pay these guys this week.
Yep.
So that sort of thing.
Yeah. So obviously it sounds like again, like I think most business owners, you jump into it. I think being a little naive is good. Being a little crazy, like you said, is good. And obviously you need the passion and the work ethic, of course, but you learn pretty quickly the harsh reality of running a business.
Yes.
Like I've been there. It's something that always like looms, like you're always trying to be super careful, knowing that like even when you have a good day, it could be a bad day the next. What is, at least in your experience, the reality of running like a brewery in Western New York? Because like I think, a lot of people with any type of business, but especially with that type of business, people walk in, I go in, this is great, this is fun. Like I have beer, I have food or whatever it is, and it must be so fun running this. Like, and I'm sure it is fun when it's going well, but like, what is the reality of it? Because it's got to be a hard business.
Well, that what you said is the perception of, that's why there's so many small breweries in Western New York. Well, this idiot did it, so it's got to be easy, so I can do this.
Yeah.
Some of them are incredibly well funded. Some of them are incredibly naive, and some of them last a very short time. So that's kind of where it goes now. I'll sum my career up in a couple of sentences. Early on, when I was trying to make sales calls, I'd go into a bar and they'd say, I said, here's this beer. We make it here in Buffalo. Oh, you're one of the Labatt's guys. No, there's no Labatt's brewery in Buffalo. Yes, there is. It's distributed from here in Buffalo, but they don't make it here. They make it in Canada. Oh, all right. So you're Budweiser guy. No, this is a new small brewery. You had to try and walk them through it and explain it to them. Well, nobody knows who you are, so we're not going to buy your beer. So fast forward about 15 years or so, and I walk into a bar. Hey, hi, Tim, how you doing? Hey, we've got a summer beer coming out, and I wanted to bring you some to taste. I go, oh, everybody knows who you are, so we're not going to buy your beer. The new thing is it's the cool beer. It's the new cool beer. That's why somebody like Other Half releases a new beer every 3 days, because it's the new beer. It's what have you done for me tomorrow kind of thing. So that was my career in a nutshell. So it was kind of frustrating. Thankfully, we were able to get the Craft Act through, so we could have tap rooms, and that let people kind of come in, try it, and then go into their local or their store and say, "Oh, I had that. I like that. I'll buy that."
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that because I was like, I'm sure you never thought you're going to kind of be dragged into the political arena, because it sounds like you did some work to make sure that those draft rooms could be open. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, the title that's become a dirty word is lobbyist. So I became a lobbyist for not just the brewing industry, but small business. because there's a lot of small businesses that are, and it's not intentional, but in the example of craft brewing, there are all these layers left over from Prohibition. Prohibition was a county, a state, a federal, and finally an amendment to the Constitution. So when it got repealed, there was 2 steps to the repeal. Beer was okay in April, and then it wasn't until December that spirits and wine and everything were okay. But when that was okay to have booze again, you could make wine at home, but you couldn't make beer at home because of a typo. And it took 70 years to correct the typo.
So crazy.
So, I mean, you've got more, well, it used to be paperwork, but I mean, that's your job.
Yeah.
You go through things like this, you find those problems. We had to find the problem, and we had to find a way to fix it. And then we had to convince our elected officials that it was a problem. It was suppressing jobs. And I mean, if you ever want to sell a politician on your idea, tell them how many jobs it's going to create and how much tax money it's going to pump into the government.
Yep.
You will get their attention.
That's actually very true. What were there lobbyists, or what was the argument against opening up like tasting rooms or draft rooms in breweries? Like what?
Well, bars and restaurants, so the restaurant
makes sense.
associations weren't keen on it. There are a number of restaurants in town that would not carry Flying Bison beer because we had a tap room.
Wow.
But because I was sort of the spokesman for that, that's why, we got pushed off. Other breweries opened after us and not only had a tap room, but they had a full-on restaurant. And they're doing big distribution. Those beers were in those bars that wouldn't carry Flying Bison beer because we had a tap room.
Wow.
We didn't have a restaurant, and until the point where that building closed as a brewery, we sold pretzels that were made from our spent grain at Missouri's Bakery.
Wow. So you get in, you're building the brewery, and it sounds like too, like you're doing a lot. I mean, you're doing it all. I mean, you're going out to bars trying to sell, pitch like the new brew. But just thinking about like your process or your method of brewing or how you ran that business, is it different than maybe how you see like the new, like up, like all these like random breweries, like craft breweries popping up, or like, were you doing things a different way?
Well, you had to, because I wasn't just paving the road, I was inventing the road.
Yeah.
For
there was
this
no
area.
road.
Right.
Yeah.
You had to get through government, you had to get through finance, you had to get through marketing, and you had to get through sales, and then you could make beer.
Yeah.
So trying to get people to understand what you were trying to do, when we did bank financing, I had to put up my home.
Yeah.
You don't have to do that anymore for a small business loan. But for someone who's didn't have a strong business acumen, I mean, it makes you get out of bed every day 3 hours earlier than you want to get out of bed.
Yeah.
Because you got to get to work so that your wife and your children have a place to live. You got to make this work, period.
Yep.
And it was hard for her to argue with me, because we got to get money in the bank account, dear.
Yeah.
So that was kind of blackmail on my part, but
no, look, I get that. Like when we started the firm, we self-funded it. And then eventually when you go and you're having a little bit of success and you go to the banks and they're actually willing to give you, whether it's a line of credit or, whatever, they slap it on our houses.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's still there. Like, I mean, and we're everything's going great. But once in a while you come home, I have my wife and daughter there, and you're just like, kind of envision like the halo around your house. Like, like this is why, like I can't let up.
I have to go back to work now.
Yeah. We just turn around and keep going. Yeah. No, it's so true. So, as you kind of move along, I know there came a time when I'm sure it was not an easy decision. I'd love if you're willing to talk about it, like you had to sell it.
Sure.
Can you talk about like what led to that,
Sure.
and kind of like just how that went down?
Yeah, it was financial times similar to where we are now.
Yeah.
It was 09, 10 thereabouts.
Yeah.
And breweries, larger breweries, buy their grain and their hops on contract, 2 years out, 3 years out, 5 years out, whatever it is. And small breweries, that option wasn't available to us. And now the growers and brokers are trying to encourage small brewers to do that so that they have some idea what's coming down the road.
Yeah.
And then they want you financially on the hook. So if you say you're going to buy 5 tons and you only buy 3 tons, well, tough darts, buddy. You got to buy those other 2 tons.
Yeah.
So those things weren't available to us. So you're paying spot market price. And when spot market price went through the roof, we were already in a tough financial situation. So the price of grain went up 20, 25% overnight. So on December 31st, I go to bed and I'm paying one price. And January 1st, I'm paying a much higher price.
Oh, wow.
Hops went up over 300%. What are you going to do? So there was a program that lasted for a little while. Samuel Adams took some of the hops that they had in storage and said, okay, these are not moving through our beers as fast as we want, but they're in good shape. They had a lottery. And, if you wanted to, you put your name and the name of your business into this lottery, and then they let you know if you got some of the hops. And then you would pay them what they paid for the hops.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, we got 4 44-pound boxes from them.
Wow. Yeah, that's crazy. I don't own a business that's like dependent on like say a supply like that where the price can be changed that quickly. I mean, it makes me think of tariffs.
Yeah.
How not to like jump too far ahead, but like obviously I know you're keeping your eyes on things. How do you think are these tariffs affecting like local breweries?
Yeah.
How bad is it?
Well, it's we'll come back to that when I get to the end of the story.
Okay, sure.
So yes, it did. It was a big decision, a big part of what the final decision was. So we were having a tough time. I had worked with lots of other breweries, and the Matt Brewery in Utica was very, very helpful. FX Matt, he unfortunately passed away from cancer a couple years later. Hugely helpful. They retained a lobbyist in Albany. The guy also did the Glass Packaging Institute, and so related industries.
Okay.
So they didn't pay a lot of his salary, but they provided some of his salary, and they said, look, you talk to Tim as well. When you talk to Tim, you're talking to me. Mm-hmm. And so that was hugely helpful. So when all this came down, I called them up for some brotherly advice. They said, what do you do? How do you, this is unprecedented territory. How do you prepare for this? How do you wade your way through it? Do you see an end? Because you're on contract and we're not. Mm-hmm. So I said, why don't you come on down on Friday? Get somebody to cover your retail store or just close. You'll be all right. And come on down Friday. Let's have a talk. So when I walked out of there with, a small piece of paper from a legal pad, it had the beginnings of a partnership agreement on it.
Oh, wow. And
it was, look, we believe in what you're doing. And that was, on one hand, it was difficult. I had no pride left by that point at all. Mm-hmm. You could put my ego in this bottle cap. There just isn't any because I've been through the mill.
Yeah.
And so I came home and I talked with my wife and a couple of the folks. When I say we had some investors, $1,000 a share, 3 shares, 2 shares. That was our, private financing. Mm-hmm. So I talked to some of the friends, and they said that's your only way forward at this point. It's the only way you're going to make it through the next 6 months. So it took us 2 years to become the same business. We ran parallel businesses for a while for legal reasons and licensing reasons and all that sort of stuff. So it took us about 2 years. And then by that time, we were starting to expand. They kept us alive. They kept us afloat. They were really great to work with. They provided us I don't know, we called them engineers, but they were fabricators and electricians, and that would come in and, you know, you don't need a glycol line this long. You can shorten it and get more efficiency out of your system and things like that.
Yeah.
So that was great. Having those guys was really great. And so then we get to a point where we want to expand, get some more space in the building that we were renting, and found out by talking to the other tenant who had most of the rest of it. And then there was a little blank space. I said, you know, I haven't been able to find a landlord. We want to take some of this blank space. He goes, well, I'm the landlord. I said, well, when did this happen? He goes, about a year ago. I said, how come I didn't know? He says, I thought the guy told you. He says, I've been wondering where your rent check is. Yeah, well, his bank account.
Whoa.
He says, I thought I was going to be evicting you this week. And he says, but we're taking the rest of the space. I'll give you 6 months.
Oh, wow.
So I go back to Utica, and so we had to brew our brains out, fill every tank, every bottle, every keg, everything, and then get it all out to try it distributing, who was our distributor, and, you know, try and get through it. So with the help of the Matts and what they knew, and a local construction company, a local architect, that they had done work with this construction company in Utica. I don't know how that happened, but anyway, so everybody was familiar with everybody. It was really, and it went smooth. So in opening Flying Bison, it took me 5 years. To go from Ontario Street to Seneca Street, we started digging in the ground in April, and we were brewing beers by September.
Wow, that's fast.
That's incredibly fast.
Yeah.
And they get a lot of hard knocks, but the city was incredible. They were so helpful. They were so good. When we needed an inspector, he was there within half a day. Inspections were done, suggestions were made, you know, and the companies we were working with, they knew all the rules. So I didn't have that the first time around. It was me going, all right, well, we got to, you know, hang a light over here. Well, it can't be here. You got to move it 2 feet. Because it's over the door, and you can't have it over the door.
Yeah.
You know, so on and on and on. But that went incredibly smooth. So we're running along with, excuse me, with the Matts, and comes to about a year ago, and they're seeing a halting in the craft brewing industry and a growth in other types of drinks.
Yep.
And so they wanted to get in on the cannabis seltzer thing. Mm-hmm. So we were the right size building and the right size business. I had retired by this time. And so they are, I believe, making cannabis seltzers in that building, but they had to take out the tap room. They had to take out the hot side part of the brewing part, the kettle and the mash tun, all that stuff, and just have the tanks to make this stuff in.
Okay.
So that's what happened there.
Okay.
And so a couple months after that happened, the folks at Hamburg Brewing Company said, we think there's life in this. So they went to the Matt Brewery and bought Flying Bison, and that's why you see it on the shelves now. So
That's what I was going to ask.
They're making 2 Flying Bison brands right now. They're looking to do a third one to make a mix pack. And I don't have any responsibility for this at all.
Yeah.
So it's really kind of cool to just sit back and say, you guys go, you know?
God, that honestly, I knew that, I heard this about you, but you're a really good storyteller. And that was actually fun to listen to, even though I'm sure, I don't know if like when you talk about that, it's gotta be emotional a little bit talking about that journey. Cause like I'm sure there's a lot of hard times in there, to say the least.
Oh yeah, we don't have the kind of time to talk about when the lights were almost out. And we had to get in the car and drive with cash to Niagara Mohawk and pay the bill and knock on the door because they closed 5 minutes early, and you have to all that sort of stuff.
What keeps you going through times like that? Like you're driving, like you said, you're driving to Niagara Mohawk with cash. There's gotta be times where like I can't, like, man, like this has got to be a better way, or like I can't believe I'm doing this. But do you even think that, or you're just like, hey, I got to do it to survive, number one, but once I've survived, I just keep going? Like what is it? Is it just a passion, or
just got to do it.
Just
got to do it. I couldn't fail.
I
couldn't. I don't know why I felt that way, but
I have a ton of respect for that. I get that.
I just couldn't.
I get that. Because we do have like a lot of, business owners or aspiring entrepreneurs who listen and jump in here and there. And like me, they just love listening to talking to guys like you, like from all different walks of life, all different industries. I'm sure you've done this a million times, and revisionist history is dangerous. But like when you look at maybe like the time you started Flying Bison to the time that, maybe the Matts came in and you formed that partnership. If you had to give advice to entrepreneurs, like, hey, watch out for this, watch out for that, like, what would it be?
That would be a tough one because times are so different now than they were then. Mm-hmm. I think that financing in general is more readily available for a lot of small businesses because of not just the craft brewing industry, but specialty restaurant industry, and especially around here where chain restaurants don't do all that well in Western New York. Yep. But you look at some places, and unfortunately some of them have closed, but these places were open 40 years, 50 years, 70 years. And the average lifespan of a restaurant in this country is 1.5 years.
Yeah.
So there's support for the local. I wish people were a little more passionate about it. I mean, what I always said, people would say, well, how are you going to succeed with this little brewery against all these giants? And if people in Buffalo put down their insert major international brand here, if they put that down and at least try our beer, we'll be fine. Mm-hmm. And if they don't do that, then everybody who comes after us is in trouble.
Well, how would you describe, or what do you feel about the state of, let's say, like the craft beer industry, either nationally or even locally today? Because, you started talking about that a little bit with, again, like the rise of all these different seltzers and now the cannabis seltzers, all that kind of stuff.
Right. So people have said to me, well, you have an interesting story. You should write a book. And I hear that a lot. Well, I'm not a writer, so I don't really want to write a book. But
you get somebody to write it for you.
It occurred to me one night that if I was to write a book about my experiences, I would call it How the Craft Brewing Industry Committed Suicide.
Okay, why?
Because that's what's going on. It's a lot like the political scene. They're chasing an image, not what they originally. And I'll say we, because I was on the board of the National Brewers Association, the State Brewers Association, the local. It opened up as variety and inclusiveness and welcoming and quality, and now it's about marketing and chasing the image of a can of hazy something with a Grateful Dead label on it. Mm-hmm. And everybody's trying to make it. And the discussions I had when I was still working with the partners was, well, you got to do this. You got to make these. I said, okay, yeah, we do, but we have other brands that are successful that we need to attend to. Mm-hmm. No, you got to do this. You got to, and just drop everything and do this. Excuse me. And the reason was, well, it's going to be 20% of the market. We're playing in 80% of the market, mm-hmm. which is the bigger number. And the whole industry has done that. It has just gone after that hazy IPA thing, and then it was fruited sour thing for a while, and they just repeatedly just shot themselves in the foot.
I think about this sometimes.
Excuse me.
You go into a grocery store, or you go to a bar. Like I love More Room on Hurdle. And there's a million options, and luckily the bartenders there are great. They'll walk you through things. But like, say you go into a store, I mean, now it's like everyone's got cool artwork on the can. Yeah. There's hundreds of them, like literally hundreds of them. How do you go? Like, if you're new to the craft beer world, or you've been just more of a casual, maybe participant, but like you actually enjoy it. Like, how do you even get started? How do you figure out like what you like, what brands that you should stick with? Like, how do you do it? Where do you start?
I have no idea right now.
It's hard.
It would be ridiculously impossible because the way the artwork is on most of these cans. Well, again, go back to when we came out with our first bottle labels, you had to send them into the government for approval, and they had to have all this thing, and this had to be this size type, and this couldn't be bigger than this size type. You couldn't use these words. You had to use those words. There were 6 types of beer you put on, ale, porter, stout, lager. Had to appear on the label. That's not true anymore.
Yeah.
You go into the store and you pick up a candy and look at it and you go, I have no idea what this is. It might be called, Frank's Folly or, okay.
Yeah.
But what does that mean?
Yeah.
They don't have to say. It's not on there. So I've gotten to a point, and I'm a jaded old fart by my own admission, that I rarely try anything that I haven't already had, that I don't already know what it is. Because I've spent a lot of money getting disappointed.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Do you? I know you still brew yourself, but apart from your own brews, if you're going to support somebody else, like, what are you drinking?
There's a few of the locals that I really like, so I'll go there when I can.
Yeah.
Let's see. In my fridge right now, I have some Hockershore Marzen that consumers had on sale. My wife likes Guinness, so I usually have some Guinness in there. And that's a beer, you just can't make that at home.
Yeah.
You just got to go out and buy the Guinness.
Yeah.
Which is fine. They're great. They've done a lot of right things over time. So I usually have a big bottle of Belgian something. If both of my sons comes over, we'll usually open a big bottle and have a goblet together and, talk over whatever's eating at them.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
In this day and age too, you see a lot of beers with like super high ABVs.
Yeah. That's another part of the bullet in the foot.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on that? Like, they're crazy, some of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That for a while it was the big, well, my beer is 70 IBUs. Oh yeah, well, we'll make a 75 IBU. Well, we're going to have 80 IBUs. Well, that's bittering units. So each one was just more bitter than the next. And then that led to it had to get stronger as well to try and offer any kind of balance to it. Mm-hmm. And you got beers regularly that are, 9% out there.
Yeah.
I'm not going out to, we've mentioned their name before, Buffalo Brew Pub or, Pizza Plant or any other place that has a more room that has a good selection and have a couple of 9% beers. That's not happening.
Yeah, you're like, woo.
Yeah.
Look out. Yeah.
So go back to the English pub. I took one of the side benefits of my having played rugby in college and having gone in the brewing industry is a friend of mine went into travel that I played rugby with. And his daughter is now running the agency, second generation travel. And I've booked 16 or 17 trips through them. And a bunch of them were they called them Flying Bison beer trips. And we'd have between 36 and 54 people on these trips. And we would go to Germany and go to Oktoberfest and then go over to and stay there a couple of days and then go to Salzburg and go to the Augustiner Beer Garden Brewery there. And, so anywhere that's got a beer culture between Iceland and Budapest, we've been there. And so that's really great.
Are you still doing those?
I'm trying to restart that. Yeah, COVID killed it.
Put us on your list. That sounds fun.
They're great. They're great fun. And as the babysitter for, you would think 36 to 50 some people, and Betsy will shake her head sometimes. Like, really not that bad. In all those trips, we've had 2 people who have been disinvited to come back. That's incredible.
That is incredible.
When you think about it, with all that was consumed and everything.
Yeah.
So anyway, the point of this was to kind of throw a line in the water is travel back or not. A year ago, September, well, it'll be 2 years ago this September, I got 10 of my hardcore beer geek friends together and said, let's go to England. Let's get back to some pubs. Let's go, so we went to London and York and Leeds, and then could have done without Leeds. London and York, I'll go there anytime. I'll take it. We go now. I have a passport. But one day in London, we did a walk, and I wanted to start down near Parliament and then go out on the bridge. You've got this million-dollar view of Big Ben and Parliament and London Eye and all that sort of stuff. So start in that neighborhood, and there's a couple of pubs right there conveniently, and then go out, and I wanted to try and get to a pub that's part owned by Sir Ian McKellen, the actor, and I'd heard about it. It just sounded like a cool place, and so from point A to point B, 9.5 miles walking,
Cool.
9 pubs.
Okay.
And I started the day, giving the dad talk to everybody. Now, you don't have to have a full pint in everyone. You can have a half pint. That's a thing here. You could have a cup of tea. You could get a bottle of water. Don't worry about it. I would bet you I had 2 or more pints in every pub that we went to. Yes, doctor, I know I shouldn't do that, and I don't do it every day. Stone cold sober. Get on the train at the end, go back to our hotel up by King's Cross, a mile walk back to our hotel. Diagonally across the street is a really lovely pub that has Black Sheep Bitter. Let's go have a nightcap.
I love it.
So, 3 and 4% beer.
Yeah.
That's the success.
Yes.
The early craft brewers that were around for a long time and or are still around are true to their 4 and 5% brands. Mm-hmm. They still make them. They're still, if they're not the flagship, they're still pretty close to it.
I love that. I'm thinking about like trips to Europe, with buddies, and that you're right. Like, I mean, whether it's, it's similar to almost like you go to Italy and eat a ton of food and you just feel good after, right? Because they're doing it the right way. All the ingredients are good. So I have to ask, because I was before we started, I was telling you, like, I talk to a lot of like business owners or high level executives, but in reality, when I'm talking to like founders who started business or running generational like family businesses, there's sometimes a struggle at the point in the life of the business where, for whatever reason, they're either being acquired or they're bringing in a partner, but they're going to stay on.
Right.
And continue to work with or under that entity. What is that like, and what advice would you give to somebody who's considering doing that? Like, what should they look out for? What's important?
Yeah, make sure you pick the right partner. I mean, we certainly did with the Matts. They were great. We didn't always agree, but the CEO at the time, he and I could talk out anything. The guy that became president and CEO, it was his way or the highway. Mm-hmm. That's all there is to it. So that company had some bigger changes than we did.
Okay.
And, the kind of bumps in the road of craft brewing and all that, well, seltzer's going to be cool now, and this is going to be cool now, and everything is 5 minutes, and you had to chase those 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. Now you don't. You stay true to yourself, and Sierra Nevada is still, if not the biggest craft brewery in the country, it's the second biggest craft brewery in the country. They still have Sierra Nevada Pale Ale. They still have the same logo. They still have the same package color. They're still working to get the company off the grid. That's what I wanted to be. Mm-hmm. So, when you've got a partner you can work with and you can talk things out, great. That's who you go with.
Sounds like your values got to be aligned too.
Yeah,
right.
And they were, and for the most part, are. There was just those scratching points, and then in between that, I had done myself some harm when I was playing rugby, and just the age caught up with me, so I had to have shoulder surgery. And my wife was retired, and she was trying to get me to retire, and I never imagined retirement. I'm not sure I knew how to spell the word. Mm-hmm. And so while I was off, the surgeon said, "You're going to be off for 8 weeks." I said, "No, I can go in and answer the phones, and I can still do stuff." And they had done surgery. I have osteoarthritis as well. So he had done surgery on my hands. He goes, "We know you. I'm not clearing you for 8 weeks." That's all there is to it. So that's why you didn't see me for a while. All right, 8 weeks, and almost every day, Betsy would come and tap me on my forehead and say, "Your phone isn't ringing. Are you taking the hint? Mm-hmm. Your phone isn't ringing. Are you taking the hint? You've got very capable people over there. It's time for you to go." Mm-hmm. And after 8 weeks, I went back to work, raring to go. And I was kind of looking at the business with a fresh set of eyes now. And I was seeing that a lot of what I did just doesn't exist anymore. Mm-hmm. You can't go have a meeting with your distributor. They don't want to hear it. Most of their sales guys don't even go into the office anymore. They all work from home and go do their accounts. They've cut back on their salespeople. They only deliver certain routes every 2 weeks instead of every week or every 4 days. So they're helping to shoot the industry in the foot as well, because they make a buck, and they're just trying to protect the buck rather than the customer.
You know, I can't believe I didn't ask you this earlier, but like when I hear you obviously refer to Sierra Nevada as a craft brew, what exactly is the definition of craft? Because I think a lot of people will look at Sierra Nevada, but like they're pretty big. They've been around a long time.
Right. That was when we were called microbreweries.
Yeah.
There were different levels and different definitions, and it was all about the size of the brewery.
Okay. And
then as some of them really broke out and got big, Sam Adams, Sierra Nevada, on Anchor, the definitions had to change. So then it was you use malted barley hops. So it was almost a German Reinheitsgebot definition. You use malted barley, hops, water, and yeast. And then when the sour thing, and you got to use lactose, and you got to have this, and you got to use oat milk to haze up your beer, they said, okay, then it's about ownership. If you're 100% owned by your corporation, then you're craft.
Oh, okay.
If you're owned by more than 25% by a brewery that's not craft, then you are no longer. So some of the bigger ones, like Bell's out in the Midwest, is a big brewery. They went from zero to big. They're majority owned by Sapporo or Kirin, one of the Japanese brewers. So they wouldn't be considered craft anymore.
Okay.
So they're going to have to change those definitions.
Okay, that's good to know.
Can I ask a question? I just, in your discussion of retirement, I had the pleasure of living next to Flying Bison, your tasting room, and I kind of watched you hold court and talk to people and engage with them and what you did on a daily basis. Is there something of that in your retirement that you really miss? Of the business that you really do, that you miss?
Big time.
Yeah.
I missed that socialization with all those people. There were, I mean, you look at what the retirement thing became. There were people who couldn't get in the building. And it was a pretty big building. That's nuts. When Hamburg Brewing Company did the rollout of the Flying Bison brands out there, they're just doing Flying Bison social media. There's no ads in the paper. It wasn't on TV. It was it was just that. Over 300 people showed up.
Wow.
And I walked up to the Russo family owns Hamburg Brewing Company. I walked up to Mr. Russo and to John, and I said, and they're just shaking their heads. They can't believe this. And they said, we thought this was the future. We thought there was still life left in this brand. That's why we did this. And I said, yeah, but here's the crazier part. I bet I know the name of every person in this room.
That's really cool.
They said, and that's why they're here.
Yeah. Well, that's what it's all about. That's awesome. How does it feel seeing the brand still out there? You know, this thing that essentially you started in your house.
Yeah.
You had it obviously you had your own brewery, and now it's being carried on by somebody else. How does it feel like going into stores and seeing it, and just, is it a good feeling? Is it like bittersweet or?
Yeah. No, I think it's really great because the beers are good.
Yeah.
So they're way better business people than I ever was. They're starting with 2 brands, and they're just going to make sure that those 2 brands are solid, and that the recipes are right, and that their staff is doing the right thing, and it's being represented well, and just all the right things. But they already had a brewery that was open and running and successful.
Yeah.
So they have the advantage of being able to do that.
Yeah.
And then they can look at any mistakes that I made and say, all right, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
So it's really cool to walk into the store and hey, wow.
That's awesome. All right, so I have one last question for you.
No, I don't know the meaning of life. Obviously.
Damn it, nobody knows. It's over now.
Have to cross that one out.
When you take yourself back to being a kid in Rochester and going in, I think it was, you said Star Grocery, is that right?
Yeah, Star Market.
Star Market, and you happen to see that Guinness on the shelf. And you grab it, and you just basically fall in love with it and say, okay, there's a different way to brew beer, to look at beer. If that didn't happen, like, do you think you would have figured that, ended up here anyways? Or do you ever think back like, hey man, if this thing didn't happen or that thing didn't happen, I probably wouldn't be sitting here?
There's probably 3 or 4 moments of my life, the way that life wound up happening. None of this was really planned.
Yeah.
In a macro view. I met a girl at my friend's high school dance. She's at my house right now. We've been married for 45 years.
That's awesome.
If I didn't go to that dance with my friend, that was the first high school dance I'd ever been to. It was my senior year in high school. And I went to school almost across the county.
Yeah.
So that was 1 minute. On my way to soccer tryouts at Buff State, I saw a sign in the student union, hey, come out and run with the rugby club. And I'd heard about rugby. I knew a little bit about it. I'll go see what these guys are about. Just, on my way. I had my cleats and I had shorts. And they go, oh, you're here to try out. And they just threw the ball to me. You got to catch up. Oh. And I started playing rugby immediately. Just welcoming, and we don't care who you are. Just come on out and run with us. And, let's play the game and have a good time. That was a huge moment. That led to the travel and lifelong friendships and all that sort of stuff. And then, the 4-pack of Guinness, and then Betsy giving me the gag gift. So when I had a tour of people that came through, and Flying Bison on Seneca Street was pretty big, and a lot of tanks, and I would tell the story about Betsy giving me the homebrew startup kit for a gag gift, and then I just turn around and kind of point to all the tanks and go, and this is all her fault.
That's awesome. Well, look, this has been amazing. I appreciate you doing this. This was a lot of fun, and I could see us doing it again because I feel like we're just scratching the surface.
Well, it's good to chat with you. You can call me anytime.
Thanks, Tim. Appreciate it.
Yeah, cheers.
Thank you. Cheers. All right, everybody, that's a wrap on this episode of Angles. I appreciate you listening in as always. And look, I just have one small favor to ask of you. If you got value out of this episode, please go on, whether you follow us on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, wherever, like, subscribe, leave us a review, share this with your friends. Doing this makes the podcast more visible, ensures we can keep running this, we can keep getting great guests to tell these great stories. So again, if you've gotten any benefit out of this, share with a friend, your family member, whoever. We really appreciate it. Thanks as always for listening. We'll see you on the next one.